Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Rachel and we are standing in my doll shop, which is out here in Denver, Colorado, and we have a doll subscription, and we just launched our November subscription box for our Club Grace Dream Closet subscription. So go back one video and you can see what we're doing. But in the box, we have an amazing 1970s dress, and to accessorize the dress, our wonderful friends Anna and Corey at the Kit and Kat Doll Shop made a tutorial video with a free pattern on how to make this awesome floppy hat and this really cute slouchy purse, and also a headband and a couple accessories that can be used. So you can use this little headband as a trim, or you can use it as a belt, or however. These are really great, and I'm really happy with them. So enjoy the tutorial. Thanks again to Kit and Kat Doll Shop, Anna and Corey. We have links to the download for the pattern in the video, and then also subscribe to their YouTube channel because they are putting out some fun stuff in the future. And we hope you enjoy our Dream Closet Extra craft for the month.
Hi everyone, I'm Anna from Kit and Kat Shop, and welcome to my studio. Today is all about the virtual doll convention, specifically the Grace subscription box from VDC. And when I saw the pictures that Diane Vining had done for this month's box and saw that it had a 70s theme, I was super excited. I love the dress, the colorways, all the pieces. The shoes are fantastic. Lift these up so you can see them. In fact, actually, I had my first pair of heels was a pair of shoes very similar to the Bonnie Smith shoes, and I felt very grown up going to Easter Sunday that year. And I love boho style, as you can see. And I realized that she needed some other accessories to finish out my ideas in my head for photos and for play. And went to the internet, pulled some of my reference images. So we have a craft project for you guys. Actually, a few craft projects. We've got a hat, because she needs a floppy hat. We have a belt. We've got a purse. And I'm going to kind of show you guys how we can make these rather quick and from probably materials we already have. The pattern will be available through VDC, through Virtual Doll Convention, the Grace Club Boutique. So enjoy it, have a lot of fun. I would love to see, if you attempt the items, what you do with them and how you style them. So, welcome to the top down. And to get started on our hat, we're going to start with the easiest, most basic version, which is going to be made from felt. And to do this, we need a copy of our pattern. There is a scale marker on there, so make sure that you are printing this at 100%. And we've got our three pieces: our brim, our side crown, and our top crown. And what I like to do is I actually prefer to trace my paper patterns and cut them from tracing paper or tissue paper. It makes it easier to pin to my material and not distort the item that I'm working on. So in addition to our pattern, we're going to need one 9x12 square of felt and about 8 to 10 inches of whatever trim or ribbon, whatever decoration you would like for the brim, for the crown of the hat. This is just a little embroidered piece of twill tape. We'll need some matching thread, both for the trim and for the felt. And we'll need some sewing needles, just hand sewing needles. And we'll need some pins. And we'll need some scissors to cut thread and to also cut out our pieces. So the first thing I do is I want to lay out my pattern pieces, and as you can see, we can easily get one complete hat out of the 9x12, and there's even some left over. If you got 2 sheets or 1.5 sheets, you could probably make the hat and the purse from that. And it's pretty simple. We're just going to pin our pieces down just enough to hold them in place. And we're going to cut out our pieces. Now, since we're using the felt, felt doesn't fray on the edges, so we don't really have to worry about aligning. If you're doing a wool felt that might bleed in the dark color, then I would suggest that you move on to the next version, which I'll show you, where we're actually going to create a liner or a lining for the hat. So for our felt version, we need 1 side crown, 1 top crown, and the brim. And on our pattern pieces, you can see that we have the center front. The center back is going to be the seams of the side crown and the brim. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and create that back seam in our crown. And I'm just going to pin the 2 pieces together. Now with felt, there's not really a wrong side or a right side, so we have that. And I do want to pin and sew that center back seam. And what I have done is I have a polyester thread. This is a little thick, just so you could see it on camera, I hope. I thread my needle. I just put a simple knot in the other end. And don't be intimidated by hand stitching. What I do is I usually just do a back stitch. I am doing a roughly 1/4 inch seam allowance and just going to back stitch, making sure I'm going all the way through both layers of felt. And when I'm done, we will have a piece that looks like this. We've made a loop. That's our side brim. And we have seamed the back, or side crown. And we have seamed the back of our brim. And we have our crown. And remember, our crown is marked center front, center back. That's a seam down the center. What I want to do is I want to pin and sew my crown in place. And again, I find it's usually easier to start with the center front and center back. And you can mark these with a little bit of washable marker or, you know, a pen. And then I try to pin the center sides. And because this is a round surface that we're pinning to a straight surface, I just kind of work my way around and try to pin it without pleating it. And when I have that pinned, it'll look something sort of like this. And again, I've done that back stitch all the way around to stitch the 2 pieces together. So we now have these 2 pieces. So we have our crown complete and we have our brim ready. And what I will do with that is I will turn this right side out. And one of the things you may need to do is clip this seam allowance. And you're just going to go in with your scissors and you want to make sure you clip 2, but not over your stitches. And then I'll turn that right side out. Since the felt's pretty malleable, so I'm just going to kind of push it so that that seam allowance is towards the side of the crown. Okay. And then just like I did with the top crown and the side crown, I want to pin right sides together, matching those center back seams. Center front. And my sides. And just like I did with my crown, I'm going to do that 1/4 inch back stitch all the way around. And that's going to give me something like this. And again, I want to clip, and I'm just going to kind of push that seam allowance towards the crown. And I went ahead and decorated mine and then did the hem. Technically, you don't have to. The felt's not going to fray, but I actually liked having a little bit of an edge turned. On my crown. And I'm just going to kind of go through, and that little seam allowance, that 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to pin it under. And then I'm going to take my needle and thread and I'm going to whip stitch. I'm going to come up, I'm going to feel with my finger. I'm not going to come all the way up to the top layer, but I should be able to feel the needles getting close. And what that does is that will turn over this edge, and it'll almost work like we have a wired edge. That extra thickness will actually help us shape the hat when it's on the doll. And when I come back, I'll have that done and I'll show you what that looks like. My brim, and as you can see, we've got this little finished edge. Now what I actually did was I actually went back to my iron and I pressed out that edge with my iron, and I found it made it a nicer rolled edge, a thinner edge on the hat, and kind of helped hide some of this slight easing of the circle across. So that's our basic hat, and then we can kind of choose however we would like to embellish it. And with this little boho, I thought it would be kind of fun to add this little ribbon trim. And I'm just going to start at the back seam. And I'm just going to kind of pin it around. I don't want to get it too tight because that might reduce the fit of the hat. And the bottom of the trim, I'm putting it so that it rests right against that seam where the crown meets the brim. Okay, and when I come around to the back, I actually want to figure out about a 1/4 inch overlap. And I want to trim that. Now, if you have a braid or trim that's really prone to fraying, I would go ahead and suggest finish the end with a little fray check. I'm going to overlap the two pieces. Now, I could just do a couple of tacking stitches to hold that in place. In this case, because there's so much white in the trim, or cream, I used a cream thread. And this is just a regular thread. I'm gonna double my thread, and I'm not gonna tie a knot this time. I'm actually going to just kind of come up against that seam and I'm just going to put a couple of stitches to keep that folded part in place. And then flip to the inside of the hat, and then I'm just going to tie a knot and trim it. And I'm going to do that kind of basically at the 4 cardinal points, just to hold that trim in place. And that way, if I decide I want to change the trim, I've just got a few stitches to release, and then I can take it off. Now, our next version of the hat, if you don't want to make it out of felt, you want something a little bit more true to the fashion, I'm going to show you how we can take this same pattern and we can make it out of denim. Now when we make it out of the denim, we do want to add a lining. Okay. For our denim hat, we have a few alterations from what we did with our felt hat. Our materials are going to change. Now this is not a true denim. This is actually something called a chambray or shirt waist denim. It's a twill, just like your blue jean material is, but it's a lot thinner, so it'll be a lot easier to work with in our small scale. We need to do a lining for the crown inside, and for that I just picked this little medium blue broadcloth. It's really not going to be seen. It's just going to help hide our seams and make sure any fraying or anything like that's going to be encased. And I thought with the denim and with our 70s theme with the tie-dye, I really like this trim. I thought it was really cute, this little rainbow ribbon. So that's what I picked to decorate our hat with. For the denim version, we are going to make some changes. We're going to use the same pattern, but in this case, we're going to cut, like I said, one of the side brim. You want to cut this on the bias. That's going to help you with easing it around the top of the crown and also in the inside of the brim. So we've got our 2 brim pieces, crown and side, crown and side crown. And just as we did in the other, we want to go ahead and match those back seams. In this case, we're going to do it for both brims, both side brims, and stitch those. So we have this. And there I went ahead and pressed open the seam on both pieces. And I matched the 2 brims together and sewed them on the outside edge, meeting that center back seam. And we'll want to take this, we'll want to turn it right side out. And I use a metal chopstick just to kind of push that seam out. And I use a mister in my iron, so I want to go ahead and press that brim flat. And that gave me this. And I did actually go back and did a small top stitch close to the edge. There's no lining or interfacing in here. There's no wire. So I found that little stitch kind of helps give us a little bit more shape to the brim. And I stitched my crown pieces into my side crowns. Now for this side crown, I did turn it right side out, and I did a little bit of top stitching around the top edge. Now what you want to do is you'll want to take this piece and up to, but not more than, 1/4 of an inch. You just want to clip this. When you clip this edge, it'll make it easier to match up the center front, the center back, and evenly ease that piece into it. So I stitched that all the way around, and then I'm ready to add my lining piece. And to do that, I actually ended up turning the hat inside out and turning my lining right side out and just tucking under just a little bit of that bottom edge and meeting the center back seam, the center front, and just taking a tacking stitch all the way around to cover that brim. So we end up with this. Turned it right side out, and now I'm ready to decorate it. And this one I did do a little bit of a top stitch all the way around. And in this case, I decided to tack it, and I just tacked it in the 4 cardinal points where it meets in the back and on the sides and the front, just to kind of keep it in place. You could also add like some decorations, flowers, whatever you would like to that. And that's the denim version. The last version I made, I decided I wanted something that looked like a old distressed leather. And I found this material at Joann's, and I like it because it's very thin and it does have kind of that cracked texture that old leather gets. But I have found that this one can bleed when it's or stain. So doing my research and looking at pictures of these hats, I did see some that were lined on the inside with a contrast. So for that one, I decided I would cut from this little cotton. And it has it's just a kind of a plain calico with a little bit of a design on there. Not much. This should be safe against my doll. And in this case, instead of cutting 2 of the brim, I'm going to cut 1 in my fabric and 1 in the lining that will be near the doll. Just like we did with our denim hat outside and inside. And again, you want to make sure that you cut this piece on the bias. So this time I stitch my lining to the top, right sides together, again matching that center back seam. I would clip with this material doesn't have a lot of stretch, but this one does, so I would go ahead and clip or use my pinking shears on that edge and then turn it right side out. And which I did. And again, clipping that to help ease that crown in and applying my liner just like I did the previous one. So we end up with something like this. Now, if you actually made this hat out of 2 cotton calico materials, you could make this reversible. So you could have like a floral for spring and summer, maybe a stripe for fall and winter. Now this one, I decided I didn't want to go ahead and attach the hat band or decorations permanently. I actually want to make a hat band that can be removed and used as a headband, or in the case of the one doll, I actually used it as a belt too. Hi everyone, welcome back. And for the last part of this, we're going to work on those quick craft projects. We made our hat and we were going to make a hat band. So what I did was I took some of my trim and I cut a piece approximately 13 centimeters long. And her head with her wig I measured was actually 14 centimeters, so that gives us some space in the back. And I'm going to try to bring this up and see if it'll show it in the detail. They sell these little ribbon end pieces. They just clamp onto the ribbon with a pair of pliers. And they sell those in the jewelry section. So that's what I did to finish off either end of the ribbon. Now the nice part is they also include a little loop here at the end. So I took some of my cording. I strung one of my little beads on the end that I thought matched the dress and the hat band. Threaded it through right across all the way to the other side, about 12 inches. You could go a little bit more as well, and then added another bead and a knot. A little further decoration. I found these little paper flowers in the scrapbooking aisle, and I thought they matched the colors and the motifs in the dress. And that's just glued to the ribbon itself. To dress my doll, I'm going to bring my little Grace over here, Freckles with her wig, and you take the hat band, and you see how the thread goes across the back? We're just going to pull this snug and tying it in the back, and that makes it adjustable. So we can also put this on our Elowens or other dolls, or if your doll has a hairstyle that maybe you have to go under a partial updo or around a ponytail. And the fact that it's adjustable means that we can put it on our hats. It's that leather hat that didn't have one. And on the one doll, I actually managed to slip it up over the feet and over the dress, and she was able to use it as a belt. And I've done different types of ribbon, maybe something a little bit more romantic, the fancier trim. Another option for a hair braid or headband would just be to take your piece, braid your cording, braid it, and then just tie it around. Maybe attach a circle of felt underneath the knot, and that'll give you a base to glue your flowers to without having to worry about them getting caught in the doll's wig. Speaking of the cording, I grabbed some jump rings. These are about a 10 millimeter. You could go up to as much as like a 15 millimeter. I just use one of these as my buckle. I cut 3 lengths of my cording, approximately 24-26 inches. I wanted quite a bit to work with, and in the sample photo you'll see that I used the brown, and this is just a bamboo cord. It shouldn't bleed or that, but you get several options of colors on the card. And to make the braided belt, what I did was I took the 3 cords and I looped them through the jump ring. I then took some thread and wound it tightly around right where the loops are. I'm going to probably bring this closer. Okay. I then split it into 2 groupings of 3 strands. Remember, if we take 3, we fold it in half, that gives us 6. The actual belt I saw had multiple strands, and you could do that if you wanted to do something lighter like an embroidery floss or a crochet cotton, whatever you have on hand. I just thought with this, I wouldn't be spending hours braiding. I went ahead and clamped the ring part to my desk so it wouldn't move, and then just braided, just like a regular pigtail, a 3-strand braid. If you wanted, you could get fancier, 4-strand, 6-strand, however you wanted to do that. Again, at approximately 22 centimeters, I again took my thread, I wrapped it tightly, tied it in a knot. I did apply a little glue to each of those thread pieces just to make sure they don't come undone. And then I threaded my little wooden beads. And in this case, I used 1 of each because I thought that would be nice. It would kind of match any of the colorways of the dresses that you get. And to put this on our doll, bring Grace back. She's being such a patient model. I took it so that the ring is on this side. The 2 braids are connected at the end. And I just kind of feed the beads through. I suppose if you don't change your dolls often, you could add the beads after you've tied it to her waist. I wanted something that was long enough so that it could actually fit on the hip if I didn't want it all the way tightened to the waist. It's going to slide through. I'm going to go over and through and then try to tighten that up just with a half knot, and then allow the beads to fall down. This could actually be used as a hat band as well or a headband if you wanted to do the same thing. Our bonus pattern is a purse. Now, I did not do a step-by-step of the purse because it is very similar to doing the hat, especially the felt hat. We do have our pattern, as you can see here, and I made the hats, or I made the purses from the same felt as the hat. You'll want to cut one of your base pieces, that's this piece that wraps around the bottom of the purse, and two of the bag body. And that's going to be your front and your back. And then I also took my ruler and I cut just a narrow piece from the width of that 9x12 sheet. Made sure that it was just a little bit smaller than the narrowest part of the base of the bag. What I did is I used my matching thread. I did kind of a simple blanket stitch. If you've ever done applique, you're probably familiar with a blanket stitch, or a whip stitch will work for felt as well. I did use a little embroidery on the front. I had the floss. It matched the theme. I matched the base to the top corner and then around the bottom of the bag, making sure to match the center bottom to the center bottom mark on the pattern, and then stitch that around on the outside. I did the same for the back. And then for the strap, I wanted something that was a little bit more stable. This felt was very thin and wanted to stretch out quite easily. So I ended up doing a blanket stitch, or you could do a whip stitch just around the two sides of the strap, and then attached it with a few hand tack stitches on the bottom. You can fill the purse. I actually took a little piece of tissue just to give it a little bit more body at the bottom. And that's our accessories. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you are encouraged to create your own accessories for your Grace doll, especially for this month's box. I really enjoyed coming up with the ideas and playing with the materials, and looking forward to a lot of photography with the dolls with this particular box. I will be leaving descriptions and links down below for where you can find the subscription box if you want to sign up for the subscription for future boxes. If you're a current Grace Club subscriber and you would like to download the patterns, those are going to be free for you, thanks to Rachel at the virtual doll convention site in the Grace Club section. And you guys have a great day. See you next time. Bye bye.